And this is also something else that I've discovered that my wolf has done. I discovered that he has two expensive life insurances policy on our two children, which was never discussed with me, and was never mentioned to me at all. And this is extremely astonishing to me. I still don't know how to process this piece of information. I don't know. It's even more difficult for me to digest because, you see, not so long ago, before my son left for university, I sat all of them down to have a conversation which I thought was, within my right and normal to address. I have children on their way to becoming adults, really, and this is something I thought our family as a whole should be aware of and openly talk about. And for doing so, my husband made me feel like I was a bad mother, because the subject was about life insurances. And this is what I told my children, that as they grow older and when they're going to start making money and start their own family, I said to them, that I wanted them to take life insurances, as soon as they possibly could, for themselves, but to make me the sole beneficiary of those life insurances, because they knew they can trust me, and they also knew that I could never betray their trust, the trust that they put in me, to look out for the welfare of their partners or their children if anything was to happen to them. And I really wanted them to feel comfortable with me and to trust me. And this is why I made it an open subject, a family subject, so everybody could, my husband as well, he could, come in and give his 2 cents, and we could all discuss it as a family. I explained to them that, because let's face it, the relationship, the life that I had, it's always been me making decisions. It's always been me coming up with ideas and things to do, and how to go about things. It's always been me. It's just been the way it's always been. It's always fallen on my shoulder. The man just sits there and says nothing, and then whenever it suits him, he just goes and blocks me or resists or try to, that's the only position he's always taken. But anyway, so I explained my children that insurances are a normal part of modern life. This is it's a part of modern living, and it's very important. Unfortunately, those kind of things, from what we all know, can attract the wrong kind of sorts of partner, and or it can even change the lifelong partner's intention when the love goes away. So as their mother, I told them that I would sleep easy if they made me the beneficiary of their life insurance, because there's just no way I'll go after their life for the money. It's just, and since all of us are witness of this talk, and we're all part of it, so, we could keep each other in check if that's necessary. And here I was, thinking I was doing something that was right and good, and also, you know, by making it a family discussion, by and also just giving enough time, because it's a discussion I you know, I just introduced, so it was the first time I talked about it. So it's something that I thought that, you know, I will just introduce the subject and initiate it, and give my children the time and the space to think about it, to discuss it amongst themselves, and to mature into it, and then later we can come back and talk about it. I mean, they're free to say yes or no, but the option was there for them. I wanted them to know the option was there for them. And somehow my husband, my wolf, basically twisted the whole thing and made me out to be a greedy and a conniving person. And as usual, he twisted the whole thing with just a few words, you know, an expression here and then, and an attitude here and there, and the whole atmosphere, the whole thing. Even the kids basically just, it looked like they were on his side, and they looked at me funny. I was very hurt. And the sad thing about it all is, back then, you know, at the time, I didn't know just how much my children had already not only been tainted but been corrupted, and how twisted their image and their understanding of me was already completely skewed. I didn't, you know, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that my children had already made me basically their enemy. And so basically both of them were in full agreement with their dad, and what was that their father was saying, you know, they did not have to say much. I mean, I could just see in their expression. Basically, their father was just expressing something that they themselves, the children at the time, did not have the courage to tell me themselves, but it was pretty clear. And now, after all of this, here I am finding out that he has, after making me look this bad, he's the one who has got life insurances on their lives, and he has done that from the time the children were still infants. And my children think that I'm the one who has bad intention, when it is something I broached and approached with the full knowledge of everybody. And the worst thing is that even that as a proof, if I went to them and told them, guess what? They still would not believe me. They would still find a way to rationalize their father's behavior. And they would probably, especially my daughter, she'll probably run to her dad and warn her dad, so that I could gain absolutely no upper hand on her father, because both of them, their loyalty is with them no matter what. But let's move on. When it comes to cheating and extramarital affairs, me personally, I have heard and witnessed enough while growing up within my own family, and through my life as an expatriate young wife, to have known that it is extraordinarily rare to have a faithful partner and husband. I'll just give you a little background. My own father was someone who was always, my father was always there, you know, always on time. My father didn't have hobbies, except, actually, yes, he did football, but this is something, you know, that happened at home. And with friends, and he hardly went out of the house. He was always there picking us up from school, lunchtime, and in evenings, and every single weekend. The only weekend I wasn't with my father was when I was with my grandmother, and he was always there. But the stuff that I later found out left me wondering, when did that man ever get the time to have affairs? And he had quite a lot. And quite frankly, where I come from, for men, but I suppose they don't cheat by themselves, so I would even go as far as to say that cheating is a national sport. It's the hobby of most males, and all of them are skirt chasers. That's how we call it. They're always chasing skirts. So at the time, living as a young expatriate wife, living the expatriate lifestyle, in the first 10 years of my life together with my wolf, honestly, I certainly I can't count the number of wives who swore up and down that they had the best husband ever. Their husband were the most hard-working husband amongst all of us. And only to be the talk of the whole compound. Every time those poor women would actually leave, they'll leave to go on a holiday alone, or they had to leave to give birth, only for the rest of us to actually witness the husband misbehaving as soon as they had their back turned. And most of them didn't even try to hide their affairs, with wives of other expats from different compounds, or with local girls, or there was just always stories. So somebody like me, I learned very early on that I just was never going to be the one who was going to swear up and down and put my arm on the fire, just go and put my arm out there and say, my husband this and my husband that and my husband that. I kept my mouth shut. I just wasn't going to do that to myself. Some might say that because of that, I have very low expectations, and maybe they are right. But for me, the way I saw this, it was quite simple. Me, I'm not a male. And I understand that most men compared to women, they have a stronger and libido there, I accepted that, and I didn't think it was all right, for them to cheat, but I kind of accepted that, there was a good chance this was gonna happen, because I understood that there wasn't much I could do to stop any of this if it did happen. especially when later on we had to separate because, you know, our kids came to an age where they needed stability, you know, because of school. My son was already experiencing quite a lot of problem. He wasn't as confident and well adjusted as my daughter was, even though she was younger. My son was rather reserved and shy, and it's just, you know, that moving around just wasn't suited to his character. And I was very much in tune with that, and I just could not allow myself to just keep uprooting them. So I knew that, you know, we had to make a choice, and I could no longer follow my husband along. And before actually that time came, I had already, you know, made a little research and spoken to, you know, other wives who were much older than myself and who have been through this dilemma with, you know, the constant moving, you know, through my own observations, what they explained is that a few of them chose to send their children to boarding school so that they could keep a close eye on their own husband. Instead, that's the choice that they made, while other families, other mothers chose to just keep, you know, the lifestyle going and keep up, you know, uprooting their children from place to place and schools to school and countries to countries to keep the family together. And from the stories that I eventually gathered, a lot of those, you know, those children who grew up really being uprooted constantly like that, more often than not, those kids really did struggle at school. And they struggled, and they performed a lot less at school compared to those children who actually went to boarding school, you know. And for me, you know, having had my own struggle with the academics, I just could not bear risk my kids' education and end up like me. I just couldn't do it at all. And as far as sending them to boarding school, I just couldn't justify sending my children away from me to have them being educated on a daily basis by some people I didn't know. But of course, looking back now, and because of what has transpired over the last so many years, it's obvious that I made the wrong choice. I married the wrong person, so therefore this was the worst thing I could have done. But again, this is something I could not have predicted at all. But back then, the way I saw it, for me, it was that I had those children because I truly wanted the privilege, you know, to have the opportunity to see them grow. I knew my firstborn was going to be a boy. I knew it because I saw him in my dreams, and when I had my daughter, same thing again. I didn't see her in my dreams at all. I don't recall. I didn't. But I knew she was a girl. I just knew she was going to be a girl, and she was a girl. And I was really excited about having the opportunity to raise a boy and a girl because I really wanted to see that difference. I really wanted the privilege to watch them grow and develop and become the best that they could become. and I wanted to be part of that in every way I could. I didn't want to miss anything at all from their years of growing up. I knew there are other people out there, other mothers who did not have that privilege, that opportunity to stay home and be part of their children's life in this way. So I was truly, truly, truly grateful and to be in this position, where I did not have, to worry and struggle about dividing my time between, the pressures of making a living, participating financially, and making that decision every day to leave my children behind. So to me, it just made no sense emotionally and in any other way to then turn around and put my kids in boarding school. So I did make the choice, it was a choice that I made, that it was a risk that I was taking. But so I knew that eventually, my husband could stray. He travels a lot. He spends months on his own, and to me, I had already done the maths, and I had made my peace with it, because I accepted the failure of the human flesh, and him being completely alone and traveling, and the possibility of him being tempted, and the possibility of him being weak. But I knew deep within my heart that he loved me and he adored me, and I was 100% sure of that. So that even if he did cheat, I was sure that he wasn't the type who was going to break up his family for a fling. This is a man who made me have an abortion because he couldn't conceive having a child out of wedlock. At the time I was we just met, I was 19. I wasn't sexually active. I certainly wasn't, it was my second man. But I would even say that the first time was what you call not a drive-by. It wasn't a hookup, it was a proper relationship, but that was kids sex, and even then it wasn't even sex. I wouldn't even call it sex. So it was really very much, I would say, my first. So I wasn't on a pill or anything like that. I was still fumbling around with contraception and stuff like that. And and he said, there is just no way I'm not gonna have a child out of wedlock. And I thought, oh, okay. And when we decided to get married, and again, he never proposed, he never actually did what other people did. He never did. It was a case of, okay, we're getting married, and and they said, okay. And again, to save money, I said, because he's always traveling, he was traveling back and forth, and as usual, there was never any kind of proper organization or comprehension that this is what we're going to do, this is what was, everything is always difficult with that man. So I said, let's just elope. It's a case of whenever you come on holiday, we just go somewhere, we get married, and it's out of the way, and we save money. And he actually put his foot down. He said, no way, I'm just not going to get married like somebody who hasn't got a family, like I am some kind of a thief or something. No. So with those kind of mentality and those point of view, he did come across to me as somebody that was solid, somebody who had very good, how do you say that? Family man, somebody who understand the values of family and that kind of thing. So, it was a solid kind of illusion that he rubbed my face with, and and you couple that with the way he proclaimed all the time his love for me, and the way he followed me around, the way like a puppy, and the way he always listened to me. So you put all of those things together, there is just no way I could have imagined that that man could be the kind of person who want to break up his own family, and he could have affairs, and he could do all sorts of things that I have now discovered. There's just no way. So you can imagine my utter shock for what I have now found out. So back in October, I believe it was October of 2016, after a few weeks had passed after downloading what was on 2 of his flash drives, it took me a while to get the time to go and sift through things and everything, because there was an awful lot of things, from work, and mostly from work. But I came across a file containing what looked like something I would imagine people would put in personal ad. And in that ad, there is a description that seems to match him. It's a list, and it says his race, and the person describing himself as very tall, slim, athletic, handsome, rich, family orientated, and it says that likes Asians and Latinos, and it said something, I'll have to go back and take a look. There was some, abbreviation for something that means nothing to me at all. And then right next to that list was another list that looked very much like it's actually somebody that is responding, or the copy of the response of somebody. And basically this is what that other list says. The response goes as follows: I am Latino, medium height, healthy, trustworthy, family man, likes Asians and Caucasians. And he also had an abbreviation of something that means nothing to this poor little dum-dum. I was baffled. I kept asking myself, why would my husband will be in possession of something like that? It just made no sense. And the thing that caught my eyes more than anything else was, if this was my husband describing himself, why would he be describing himself? Why would he be describing himself as rich? I know that although we want for nothing, we are nonetheless far from being rich. Now you have to actually I think what I'm doing here, I actually find this was one of the first thing I found, I came across before I actually I can't remember, let me think. So I know that although we wanted from nothing, we were far from being rich, especially at the time this file was recorded at, the time that was on that file. That file was dated, I think, I can't remember right here, right now, I think it was between 2004 and 2003. And back then, those years, we were still living in the south of France. And because we arrived in this country in July 2005, just a few weeks before the kids started school. So as you can imagine, seeing those dates and seeing that list and the dates on it, it certainly started to, in my head, things started to spin, and they spun even faster after I started coming across the picture of a Hispanic man in several of his files. And the more I sift through, the more I looked, the name of that man and his pictures just kept popping, just kept coming back over and over and over. And even though there was, I'm going to be truthful here, there was, like I've been anyway, there was nothing indecent, but still, this felt extremely weird, like, why? Then the further I searched, the more personal details from that man appeared everywhere in his files, in his papers, inside those flash drives. There were 2 of them, and just eventually, basically, it looked like my husband is in possession of every single personal detail of that man. And I do mean every single personal detail of that man. And now I too have got every single personal detail of that man you know, of the last 11 years. And I do say the last 11 years. I've got that man's social security number. I've got his 401k details. I have his home address, which is here in our hometown, in the town that where I am right now. I know his home phone number. I know his mobile number. I am in possession of his CV for employment, and I have his driving license. I have a copy of his passport details. I have, I know what his income is. I have a lot of his expenses, even the gas, how much, sometimes he's been taking trips, and my husband has a copy of those expenses. And I have details of his wife too, and I have got receipts of his family emergency trips, in hospital. And I think that was grandmother who stayed in hospital. They had to go to the emergency wave and stay in hospital. I have a receipt of their, the renovations in their home, and the floor plan of their home, because they made some extensive remodeling thing in their home. I also found that man's daughter high school project in my husband's files. I've got pictures of that man's family together, spending time together. I have found invitations, made by the children of that man to invite my husband to their family get-together or important celebrations. And I have even found scholarships application for that man's daughter. Even their American passports applications. I'm just gonna stop here, and out of curiosity, and because I guess I don't want to contaminate too much, basically I would like your advice. I would like you to be kind enough and to be open enough and to suggest to me quite openly why you think my husband of 22 years and my legal husband of 22 years and my life companion of 25 years will be in possession of somebody else's entire existence of the last 11 years. I obviously, I don't want to be inflammatory or anything like that. So feel free to give me your opinion, and I will wait for all of your opinion before I go ahead and give the end of that what I have discovered, and the rest of it. Please, maybe there is another way of seeing this than the way I am thinking. I'll be very grateful.